She lost again. And this time, it wasn't just another tough match. It felt like something bigger was breaking behind the scenes. Because when Iga Swiatek walked off the court after that shocking Miami Open defeat, you could see it in her face. This wasn't frustration. This was uncertainty. And now, just days later, the biggest move of her season is official. She split from Wim Fissette. But here's the real question nobody is asking loud enough. Did Iga Swiatek just make the most important decision of her entire career, or her biggest mistake? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why her next coach could either bring her back to dominance, or push her completely out of the elite tier. Let's start with the truth that a lot of fans are trying to ignore. This wasn't just a bad run of form. This was a pattern. First, the loss to Maria Sakkari in Doha. That one already raised eyebrows. Then skipping Dubai completely. Something that hinted at either physical issues or deeper problems. Then came Indian Wells. Another quarterfinal exit. This time against Alina Svitolina, a player who, let's be honest, Swiatek at her peak should be beating. But the real shock? Miami. Losing to Magda Linette in the opening match. Not just losing, but losing control of the match mentally. And here's the stat that should genuinely worry every Swiatek fan. It was the first time in 73 tournaments that she lost her opening match. 73. That's not a slump. That's a system failure. And when something like that happens, players don't just tweak their game, they change their environment. That's exactly what Swiatek did. She ends things with Wim Fissette, a coach who, on paper, actually delivered success. Let's not forget, he helped her win Wimbledon in 2025. That's not small. So why walk away now? Here's my take, and I want you to really think about this. Sometimes in tennis, success can hide problems. Because yes, they won Wimbledon. But was Swiatek ever truly comfortable with that version of her game? Her identity has always been built on control, heavy topspin, and dominance from the baseline. But over the past year, we've seen her trying to evolve, flattening shots, rushing points, changing patterns. And it hasn't looked natural. That's where coaching becomes everything. A coach isn't just someone who improves your technique. They shape your identity. And right now, Iga Swiatek is searching for hers again. Now this is where things get really interesting, because the names being linked to her are not random. They tell a story. Let's start with the one that's getting the most attention, Francisco Roig. If you know tennis, you know exactly why this is a big deal. Roig isn't just another coach. He was part of Rafael Nadal's team during some of his most dominant years. That means he understands something very few coaches do: how to maintain intensity, discipline, and mental resilience at the absolute highest level. And let's be honest, that's exactly what Swiatek is lacking right now. But there's another layer to this. Roig also worked with Emma Raducanu, and that situation didn't exactly end smoothly. So the question becomes, where does approach actually fit Swiatek? Because coaching isn't about reputation. It's about chemistry. Swiatek is a very specific personality. She's thoughtful, analytical, and deeply emotional when it comes to her game. She doesn't need someone to just push her harder. She needs someone who understands her mental process. Which brings us to the second, and possibly most fascinating option, Tomasz Wiktorowski. Now this would be a full circle moment. This is the coach who helped her become world number one. The coach who guided her to multiple Grand Slam titles. And more importantly, the coach who understood her better than anyone else. There's a reason why people are seriously talking about a reunion. Because sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. And let's be real. Since they split, Swiatek hasn't looked like the same player. Yes, she's had success. But the consistency, the aura, the dominance, it's faded. But here's the complication. Wiktorowski is currently working with Naomi Osaka. And while there are rumors about Osaka potentially stepping away from tennis for a while, nothing is confirmed. So this option? It's possible, but far from guaranteed. Still, if it happens, it might be the safest move Swiatek can make. Now let's talk about a name that fans are throwing around, but insiders say is more speculation than reality. Juan Carlos Ferrero, former coach of Carlos Alcaraz. Now imagine that combination for a second. Ferrero is known for building aggressive, fearless players. Players who take control of points and dictate matches. That sounds exciting, right? But here's the problem. Swiatek isn't Alcaraz. Her game is built on structure, patterns, and control. Bringing in a coach who thrives on chaos and creativity might actually do more harm than good, unless she's planning a complete reinvention. And if that's the case, then this decision becomes even bigger than we thought. Because changing your coach isn't just about fixing results. It's about choosing your future identity. Now, there's another angle that I think deserves way more attention, and that's the Polish connection. Dawid Celt, not the most famous name, not the most glamorous choice. But sometimes, the right coach isn't the biggest name in the room. It's the one who understands you. Celt knows Swiatek. He understands her culture, her mindset, her communication style. And in high-pressure moments, that connection can be more valuable than any technical advice. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer this in the comments. If you were Iga Swiatek, would you choose experience and reputation or trust and chemistry? Because that's the real decision she's facing right now. And there's one more thing we need to talk about. Something that isn't being said enough. Mental health. This has been a recurring theme in Swiatek's career. She's been open about it. She's worked with sports psychologists. And right now, it feels like the mental side of her game is under more pressure than ever. That's why the mention of Ferrero focusing on mental balance, even outside tennis, is so interesting. Because maybe Swiatek doesn't just need a coach. Maybe she needs a reset, a new environment, a new voice, a new perspective. But here's the risk. Every change comes with uncertainty. And in today's WTA landscape, there's no time to figure things out slowly. Players like Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, and Elena Rybakina are not waiting. They're improving. They're evolving. They're getting stronger. So if Swiatek makes the wrong decision here, she could fall behind very quickly. And yes, I know that sounds dramatic, but tennis moves fast. One season you're dominant. The next you're chasing. And right now, Swiatek is closer to chasing than leading. But here's the twist in this story. The part that makes the situation so fascinating. Sometimes, hitting a low point is exactly what a player needs, because it forces clarity. It forces honesty. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where Swiatek rebuilds herself into an even more complete player. Not just technically, but mentally stronger, sharper, more adaptable. But that only happens if she makes the right choice. So, who will it be? The experienced hand from Nadal's camp? The trusted voice from her past? The bold gamble with a new philosophy? Or the familiar connection from home? We don't have the answer yet. And that's what makes this story so compelling. Because this isn't just about a coach. This is about identity. This is about legacy. This is about whether Iga Swiatek can stay at the top of women's tennis or slowly drift away from it. And I'll say this, and I want to be very clear. Anyone writing her off right now is making a mistake, because we've seen what she's capable of. We've seen the dominance, the streaks, the confidence. That version of Swiatek didn't just disappear. It's still there, but it needs the right guidance to come back. And that's why this decision matters more than any match she's played this year. So now I want to hear from you. Who should Iga Swiatek choose as her next coach? Should she go back to what worked, or take a risk and evolve? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is one of those moments where fans can genuinely see the future before it happens. And trust me, we'll be watching very closely, because whatever happens next, it's going to find the next chapter of her career, and possibly the entire WTA landscape. This is Tennis IQ, where we don't just watch tennis, we decode it.